Hey everybody, it's Brian again, back with the Java tutorial. Today we're going to be talking about the data structure array. Java has this awesome feature that it can collect items of the same data type together in one group and can be extremely useful for a lot of different applications. So let's go ahead and just kind of take a look at a concrete example. Now before you get started, I want to see you guys go ahead and import java.util.arrays. We're going to be using this pretty soon. So there's some methods inside this class that we're going to use throughout this unit, and today we're just going to use one of them. But so here I have a list of 4 friends. Now right now in Java's memory, each of these strings is kind of separate, standalone. So if we wanted to kind of do something with all of the friends, we would have to kind of work hard and actually access each one of them individually. So let's talk about how to collect them all in one place inside of an array. Now, what an array would look like would be like this. It would be, if I can imagine it, it would be something like this. So then I could do something with all of the friends, I could kind of collect them all together. So let's go ahead and do that. So one way we can do this, one way to make an array would be like this. So here's the syntax for it, okay? So first you're gonna start with the data type like usual. We need to make the string array, and here's how you do it. You do 2 square brackets like this. Okay, do you see how I kind of did that up here? This tells Java that you want a string array or an array of strings. And let's name it. Okay, I'm going to name this one My Friends. One way to initialize this is inside curly braces. You would just list the 4 strings, or what. You don't have to have just 4, but for this example, let's have 4. List the 4 strings that you want. Now I could either put their variables in here. I could put friend 1, friend 2, friend 3, and friend 4. Or I could put in string literals as well. I could just put in literally the Jeff in quotations, Jared in quotations. So it's up to you how to do that. Okay, so now my friends are all collected together. Okay, so this array called My Friends exists. Let's try to print it. So if the first time you've ever tried to print these, you probably saw something like this. Let's take a look. If I go ahead and run this, look in my output box. Ooh, that's weird. That's what I made. Okay. There's a really good reason we see this, and this is why. My Friends variable actually isn't containing the array where it is. The My Friends variable is an address for how to find the Java's memory spot that contains the array. So I'll just say that one more time because I kind of convoluted it. My Friends isn't holding the array. My Friends is holding the address to get to the array. So you can kind of think of this output down here as the address for how to find the array. What if you want to actually see the array itself? Well, this is why we needed to import this class, because the arrays class has a method inside of it called toString that takes an argument that's an array. So you can just put this in here. So arrays.toString, and then inside the argument you pass in the array that you'd like to print. Now take a look. There we go. That's a little better. So remember, if anytime you want to see the array that you're making, use arrays.toString. All right, so there we go. So let's talk about another way to make an array. Okay, so let's do another array called My Hobbies. So let's say we don't know how many hobbies we want, or we don't know exactly what the hobbies are that we want to put in, but we know we want 3 of them. So what you do is you say it's a string array called My Hobbies, and it's going to be a new string array, right? But inside here we say how many we're going to fill it with. How about 3? Okay. Now just remember, this is just another way. This isn't, in addition to before. This is a brand new way to do it. So this is especially useful when you don't know what you want to put in right away. So now we have this array called My Hobbies. Now let's say we try to print this out. Remember, we have to use arrays.toString, and let's put in My Hobbies. Now remember, we haven't actually filled any of the spots yet, so we're going to still see the friends array there. And then look at this. It says null, null, null. So if you're going to have a string array and you ask Java to make one with 3 spots and you haven't filled them yet, Java will fill it with something called null, which basically means, remember when we were talking about how My Friends contains an address to find the array? Well, each string is kind of like that too. Each string is actually an address for how to find a string. Now, what if we don't actually have an address? It'll just say null. Okay, so we'll talk more about null later, but you can think of it as the default value for variables that contain addresses or references. Okay, so null means I'm waiting for you to give me an address. I don't have an address yet. So let's go ahead and fill these then before we print it. So here's how you assign or even access certain positions inside the array. Now, just like strings, arrays have indexes. So we can see that in the friends array, Jeff is at index 0, Jared's at index 1, Tim's at index 2, Phil's at index 3. So let's look at my hobbies. Let's say we want to fill the 0th index, and here's how we'd say it. We'd say my hobbies at index 0 will be guitar. Okay, so now if we print this, we're going to get guitar at that first spot, right? And we still have null here because we haven't assigned those. Okay, let's go ahead and add a couple more hobbies. Okay, there we go. So now we have all 3 indexes filled. Let's talk about how maybe the array structure is really useful for looping. Okay, so after we print this, maybe we can be making a loop. So let's say we wanted to loop through an array. Okay, much like we'd want to loop through a string. We're going to begin at the 0th index, and I is going to climb to be as big as the array is. Okay, so let's talk about how to talk about the length of an array. So let's do it with my hobbies. Now remember with strings, we would say dot length, and then we'd put the curlies after it, or the parentheses. Well, arrays are a little bit different in that the length is not a method like it is with strings. The length is just a property, so it does not need the parentheses. Okay, so let's see if we can get used to that over the next couple weeks. When you're talking about the length of the array, you leave off the parentheses because it's actually not a method like it is with strings. I know it's kind of tough to remember, but we can get used to it. So let's print out kind of something silly like, so let's access the my hobbies array at index I. So how do we do that? We'd say my hobbies, whatever index we are in the loop. So it's going to begin at 0 and go to 1 and then go to 2. And then let's say like is fun. Okay, so we should get when the first time this loop executes, I will be 0. So what's at the 0th spot in my hobbies? Well, it'll be guitar. So you say guitar is fun. I will get incremented to 1, and we'll come through here and it should say swimming is fun, and then finally mountaineering is fun, and we get that. So arrays are really useful for looping as well. So we can see how already there's already a benefit to arrays. So far we've only talked about string arrays, and we've talked about what happens when you don't fill indexes in a string array. We get that null word. So in the next video, I'm going to talk about how Java deals with arrays of primitive types, such as ints and chars and things like that. So come back for video number 2. This is the introduction to arrays, and we're going to explore how Java deals with arrays and how they're maybe a little bit different than other data types that we've studied so far. So go ahead and rewind, pause, take a look at the syntax, practice this in your own Eclipse program, and enjoy. I'll see you guys in video 2 in a few minutes. Happy coding.